Hey viewers, not too long ago I overhauled a couple of Suntour forks, an XCT and an XCM fork, and today I'm going to be overhauling a Suntour XCR fork, and this is a little bit different. This one has a lockout, so you can see how that one works. So I'm going to take this apart, clean it, lube it, and put it all back together and show you the whole process. I'm going to start off by removing the lowers. To do that, I'm going to loosen these two Allen head bolts down here. They're 5mm. I'm not going to remove them right yet. I'm just going to loosen them and kind of get them to come out just a little bit. Now with them extended out a little bit, I'm going to take a hammer and just tap up on them a little bit. Like that. And so now at this point I can go ahead and remove them. Like that. So at this point I should be able to pull the lowers all the way off just like that. And then this came off of this side over there. So next I want to remove the stacks. In order to do that I need to remove these top caps. I'm going to use a special tool that fits this top cap. It's made by Suntour. There's like two different sizes, the large size and the small size. For these, you need the large size. They're pretty easily available on eBay, and I've seen them on Amazon. I'll include a couple links down in the description. You might be able to find them at your local bike shop. They're not that expensive. Do not be tempted to use like pliers or anything like that, because these little plastic caps will just strip right out. So use the proper tool. Like I said, they're not expensive. So I'm just going to put this on there and turn this counterclockwise to unscrew it. And so I got the one side off. Now the other side has the lockout. In order to access the cap, you need to remove this little lockout lever. This just pushes on, so just kind of pry it off like that, and it just pushes on there, so pretty easy to remove. Once you have the lockout lever off, now you can see the cap. And again, with the special tool, just unscrew this, unscrew it counterclockwise. And this whole part comes out just like this. So this is what the little lockout part looks like out of the fork. Now be careful, in the top of the lockout cartridge, there's a part that's in there that's just kind of sitting there loose. It's real easy to have it fall out and lose it, so be careful not to lose it. Then to remove the other stack, I'm just going to push this out here, and then we use like a long rod here to push up from underneath and push the whole thing out just like that. So you have the spring part, and then you have this little like plunger part that goes on the bottom, just like that. Well, here's all the parts of the fork. Surprisingly, not a lot of parts, but I'm gonna get them all cleaned up and put it all back together. Well, I got these parts cleaned up. All I did, I used like degreaser, I used hot water and dish soap, I used a scrub brush, and I used like a bottle brush for the inside of the tubes in there, and a rag. And like to help dry out like the inside of the tubes, I just took like a bit of crumpled paper towel and then shoved it down with a rod and then pushed it back out. And that can also be used, so if you don't have a tube brush, you can just take a rag, shove it down, and then use a rod to push it back out to help clean out the insides of these tubes. So now that I get them all cleaned up, get ready to put them all back together. Now when reassembling this, you want to make sure that you have the parts oriented correctly. If you look at the little upper part here, these tubes are going to be offset forward of the steerer tube. So this is the front. Now the grease I'm going to be using is called Slickoleum, also known as Slick Honey. It's made to be used in forks. A couple other greases you might see are SRAM Butter or Judy Butter, also made to be used in forks. They're a little bit more expensive, but very good. It's very important that you use a grease designed to be used in forks. If you use something else, it could damage the parts in there and you're not going to get good performance out of your fork. I always get people asking, can I use this, that, or the other type of grease? Do some research. Is it designed to be used in forks? What I recommend is the Slickoleum. It's a great value. I'll include a link down in the description. If you can't get it in your area, then you're going to have to do the research to find out what is available in your area that is designed to be used in forks. Okay, we're going to start putting this together. Here, I got this little plunger part which goes down the bottom. I'm going to take some of the grease and just rub it around on the various parts here. Just kind of get a coating of that on here. And then I'm going to drop this down in here like this. And if it doesn't come through, you might need to shake it around a little bit, but it comes out through the bottom. And then I got this part here, the spring. This goes on top of this. And again, I'm going to put it like a coating of grease all around on this. Make sure you get it all over this little plastic sleeve and try to get it kind of down inside on this little part in the middle. It's sort of an elastomer, but it's kind of I think it kind of slows the rebound a little bit. It's kind of like that, what that part in there does. And then I can drop this down on top of this. Push that down in like that. And now this little cap is going to go on top of here like this. So I'll have to push this down and try to get the threads engaged a little bit and get it turned around. And screw it in. Make sure you don't cross thread it. And then just tighten it, but don't over tighten it because again, these plastic threads in here, you can strip that sucker out. Now I'm ready to install the lockout cartridge. Remember this little part I told you about before? I'm gonna go ahead and take this out and leave it out for a little bit. Now when I pulled it out, there was grease on this part down here. So I'm gonna put like a little bit of grease on this part down here. And I really didn't see a lot of grease on there, but I'm going to put a thin coating of grease up on here because I see a little bit of grease down in there. So I'm going to put just a thin coating of grease on here like this. And then I'm going to drop this down inside here and then tighten this into place. So start by hand, it'll go in and then use the tool to kind of tighten it down a little bit more. Now we need to adjust the lockout cartridge here. There's like a little Allen head bolt here. It's a 5mm, so I'm going to take a 5mm Allen wrench, put this on here, and I want to make sure that this is tight. So I'm going to turn this counterclockwise just like that. Then I'm going to take a 4mm Allen wrench, stick this down inside this, and I'm going to turn this counterclockwise until it stops. Now that'll be the lockout position. Once I get this in the lockout position, I'm going to take that little part that I pulled out of there and then just drop this into place just like that. And now I'm going to take this little lockout cap here, the little lever, and I'm going to snap this on with the lever pointing to the back here and just press that down into place until it snaps on. Just like that. So now this should be the lockout position, and then if you rotate it forward, that'll be freed. So you get suspension there, and then go back this way, and it'll be lockout. Now before we put the lowers on, we want to go ahead and put this part on there, and then this part just fits down there like that. Now before I put the lowers on, I want to put just a very thin coating of grease around these uppers here. It's just a very thin. If you put too much on there, it'll just kind of like get all pushed up when you put the lowers on. But just a very thin coating around these tubes here. Now I want to get some grease down inside these lowers here. And I'm going to use a stick to reach down inside here and rub some grease around the inside down here. And there's like a steel like bushing up in here. I can go ahead and rub some grease around in there. And I want to do that on both sides, down lower. And definitely on this little seal up in here. And then I want to get some grease up around the inside of this little seal up in here. Up in the top there, get all around in there, a nice good coating around in there. Make sure you get some down, like nice and low down in here. Now to slide the lowers on, you want to make sure that this little brace is to the front. just set this in here, slide this up, and work it on there, and then slide it up into position, like that. Now looking in the bottom of the hole here, the bottom of the lockout cartridge is not quite lined up with this hole here, so I'm just going to use an awl and kind of move it down so that the hole is lined up just like that. So here's the bolt that goes on there. If you can see how the little washer goes on there, the flat side is going to go to the outside, the bolt there, and so the little inside part is going to go inside the hole there. Before I put this bolt in, I'm going to use a little bit of a thread locker blue, medium weight thread locker, and I'll start this in by hand here. Then I use a socket to kind of screw it in. And then get my ratchet wrench here and tighten it in. Just like that. And then the bolt on this side is the same way. There's the little washer there with kind of the flat side facing out, and then the little cone part facing in that'll fit inside the hole there. And put a little bit of thread locker blue onto here. And the bottom of the part inside there is actually kind of recessed in there, so I'm gonna have to compress the fork a little bit. Like this. And now it can reach the threads in there, and I'll start this in by hand and turn this in with the socket, and then use the wrench to tighten it in the rest of the way, like that. And done. So I have the lockout here in the open position, so I can press this down. It compresses really nice. If I flip it over into the lock position, it goes down just a hair, but then just stops. So open, close, boom, boom. And so that is how to overhaul one of the Suntour XCR forks with the lockout. What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments. Hopefully you found this useful or interesting. If you did, please give my video a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to my channel, click that subscribe button. Be sure to click the bell so you get notified when I come out with new videos. I'm over on Facebook, RJ the Bike Guy. Go over there, like that page. I'll post a ton of stuff over there. Thanks very much for watching.